Hi, friends. Welcome to Parapulse TV. My name is Mike Dorn. I'm your host, and it's been a while, a year and something, about a year, I guess, since I did the last street poll video where we went in the street and asked people about UFOs. Now, what this episode is about is not UFOs. If you are a subscriber to this channel, you probably know about Playa Circles, which is the very first video I made about Playa Circles. Just quickly to explain, Playa Circles are a formation that my three grown daughters and I found in Nevada in 2013, about 6 of them on a dry, flat lake bed, aka a playa. I could not find an answer for them. I scoured the internet, could not find any earlier reports. Nobody else ever reported these things before, and I was, pretty much stumped by what's going on. And so I made a video about it to see if more reports would come in or something. And until just recently, I had found no other reports, but I did recently type into Google, just out of curiosity to see if anything had happened in the last few months. I typed into Google circles on a dry lake bed, and up popped a bunch of images, but only one was really a playa circle. And I was, whoa, that's a real playa circle. And so I investigated and researched and found out who the photographer was. And I spoke to him. His name is Garry Hayes. He's a geologist by trade, and he works as a teacher at Modesto College in California. Now, Mr. Hayes is a professional, and I'm running this paranormal channel, so I can understand his not wanting to be, cast as a paranormal believer, which he expressed to me that he's not, and he didn't want that sort of light to be shone on him. So he's a teacher, as I say, and a professional, and he doesn't necessarily believe all the same tinfoil hat stuff I do and others like me do, but he was kind enough to let me link to his site and mention him by name on my video. So kudos to him, and great work finding that thing. Good shots too. That circle is it's beautiful. I mean, it's so perfectly defined, yet so anomalous. It just sticks out like a sore thumb. It's so a beautiful sore thumb. So I'm happy about this. I think it's great. It's the beginning of more reportings in the future. It was pretty weird for a number of years there, with my daughters and I being the only ones who'd ever found these things in the entire world. I mean, that you're probably wondering how that feels, and I'm not even really sure. It felt weird. It just felt strange. But now that's over. Now there's been a second report, and I was always certain somebody else would see more. There's no way that my daughters and I could be the first and last to see these, so I knew somebody was going to find them, but I just didn't know how long it was going to take. And it took a year and a bit for other circles to be formed, or one other circle to be formed, and then Mr. Hayes found it. And then it took me a couple of years to find his circle posted on Google Images. So, on his blog. So let's, without any further ado, let's get you to the pictures, and you'll see Mr. Hayes' photographs of the Playa Circle he found. By the way, he found it on Lake Bonnie Claire, which is the same dry lake that my daughters and I found the 6 or so Playa Circles that we found back in 2013. Excuse me. So these Playa Circles have now been found at two different times, but at the same location, which could suggest all kinds of things. But there you go. So yeah, we'll go to the website now. Okay, so I'm going to take you to Mr. Hayes' blog page, and that'll show us the pictures. I've taken this picture and put it on my screensaver now. This is so beautiful. I love this picture. Okay, so we're going to go. This is Linux. I use Linux, by the way. I don't use Windows. I got out of Windows, and I never used Safari. This is so easy. I don't have any trouble with viruses or problems with the computer. The only thing it does do sometimes, Linux, is brown out if you get too many windows open down at the bottom, but you just close a few windows and it catches up again and speeds up. Linux is graphical. This is Ubuntu Linux, Ubuntu, Ubuntu Linux, and that's a version of Linux. and it's all open source software, so it's very safe that way. It's hard for anybody to install viruses because everybody looks at the computer geeks look at the code all the time and they can catch that stuff. So anyway, this is Linux, and you can get all kinds of apps for it from this Ubuntu software. I'll just show you. It takes a little bit to load. So as you can see, this is the Ubuntu software. I can add any of these programs, audio and video. Go there. See, I got all these tools: play and extract CDs, sound synthesis, elegant music. There's all kinds of stuff. I've only used a few of them, but there's all kinds of them. And that's just for that. You can go back to, if I go backwards here, I can go back to games, I can go back to communication and news, graphics and photography. Somebody might be interested in that. Yeah, all the things you got there. These are all free downloads, all totally free and open source. They're all open source, so they're not easily hacked. So they're safe for your computer. Okay, this is one of the benefits of Linux, that you can use all this free open source software. Everything I use here. This is Flowblade Editor. This is what I make the movies on. I used to use YouTube Video Editor, except they stopped making it. You can't use it now. They don't have it anymore. So I had to go to Flowblade, which is actually easier and faster, and every bit is good quality. So Flowblade, I can add a project here, and then drag it down here, and then it shows on the screen. And then I can shorten it, edit it, cut slices out, whatever I want. So that's Flowblade. This is all Ubuntu stuff, or all playable on Linux. Okay, don't save that because it's nothing. All right, so enough about Linux. Let's get on to Mr. Hayes' blog site. Okay, here we go. So we'll type in a little mystery. There you go. So yeah, type that in. Like that. GeoTripper, that's the name of his blog site. A Little Mystery is the title of the page we're looking for. And here it comes up, number 1. That's in Google as well. You can run Google on Linux, no problem. Okay, so we'll click on that. And there it is, GeoTripper. Mr. Garry Hayes. There we go. So here's Mr. Hayes standing in the middle of the Playa Circle he found. As you'll notice, the surrounding playa is shiny. Now that's something that I noticed not too long ago, a year or so ago. I noticed it very faintly in one of my photographs, that there was a swirling or a polishing of the surface around the Playa Circle. To me it looks like it's polished. I don't know how that could be possible, but when you look at this picture down here, it's not a perfect circle or anything like that. It looks kind of like that part of the circle, or that part of the playa, was overheated more than the rest of it. To me, that kind of looks like it was extra dried out or something, or extra dried out fast or something. I don't really know. Could even be, it occurred to me the other day, it could even be water being sprayed. Like if the playa was dry when the circle was made, which is a possibility if you have enough water, I guess. The water source could be spraying some mist on there. Maybe that gives it that shiny effect. I don't know. It's just a guess. So these are the pictures we have that Mr. Hayes provided. There he is, as I say, standing there. This one here, he's just showing this to show moving rocks. They've always been linear lines. There's what footprints look like, if there are footprints, when the people are there when it's wet. Walk on it when it's wet. Now in this close-up, we see what I think is the cause of the rings. What creates the rings in the playa surface? It's like an impression or a digging or a carving into the surface of the playa. And I think what does it is there's no big rocks around, no big rocks as you can see. So how do they make these wide rings? Well, I think these little rocks. See that little rock there? There's another one there. There's another one up here. Another one there. I think there's a bunch over here. Looks like to me though there's all kinds of little pebbles in here. It's hard to tell, but we definitely have a shadow there. So we got little rocks. Maybe one there as well. And my theory is that these rocks go around and around and around and around in a circle dozens of times, and that's what causes these rings. Now, how those rocks are driven or how they move, what force moves them in a circle like that, I don't know. I can take guesses, of course, but I don't know. And I don't know what actually does cause the carving, but my theory is that these small rocks are the things or what does the carving into the surface. Okay, the etching, carving, whatever you want to call it. So that's pretty cool. I love this Playa Circle. It's just so wonderful, beautiful. Now this is a screen grab that Mr. Hayes provided of the Playa Circle from Google Earth. As you can see, the arrow points to it. It's about half an inch away from the arrow, 3/4 of an inch, right there. And what I did was take this image and compare it to Google myself. I got Google Earth on, and I matched up the shoreline to find the spot. And this was just a couple of days ago, on October 14th, 2017. And that Playa Circle is still there. It's still visible on Google Earth. Now I don't know how long ago the Google Earth image was taken, satellite image was taken, but I would think fairly recent. So it would appear that as of this date, that Playa Circle is still there, because it is in a desert and it probably hasn't rained in 2 years or a year and a half. So that's pretty cool. Now, one thing I'd like to also point out is that this is the highway. This is Scotty's Castle Road. Okay, this road here is a paved road. Scotty's Castle Road is where Lake Bonnie Claire is. It's off to the north side of it. And the interesting thing is, to me, about this is that if this picture was expanded, you would see a foothill way over here, or even further off the screen. There'd be a foothill way off to this side, kind of running north, what is that, northwest. And yet Mr. Hayes' circle was found on the southeast side of the playa. The playa runs in this direction, lengthwise in this direction, okay? And so if you drew a line right down the middle, all of the 6 or so playa circles that my daughters and I found were on the northwest half of the playa. Not too far enough, but not too far from the foothill beside the playa. And so I had a theory that the foothill, rains from the foothill were causing runoff that came onto the playa and rushed onto the playa very quickly, causing currents that could possibly swirl around. Even though it's a flat playa, they still swirl around and somehow create the Playa Circle. It was just a little thin thread to grasp onto, but all 6 were on that half of the playa, this half. And so yeah, I had that in my head that it might be something, some factor. But now with Mr. Hayes, the location of Mr. Hayes' circle here, which is very close to the edge of the playa on the southeast half, probably, God, I would think that circle is probably about 500 yards, a good 500 yards, I would think, more than that even, possibly up to a kilometer away from the foothill. So that kind of blows my theory apart, because it's way too far from the foothill to have swift currents this far. They'd have all sort of slowed down, and due to the factors of the rough surface of the playa, it would slow the water down, and they shouldn't have this kind of continuous circular current way this far from the foothill. Anyway, that's a little something about it that's confusing me, but that's just the way it is. Lots of confusing factors about playa circles. And notice how there's really nothing around. Like, there's no footprints. I guess this is an old tire track, and there's an old tire track there. When I was on the playa and checking out the circles that we found, there were some tire tracks nearby. Some of them had no tire tracks within like 25 meters, which is about 75 feet, 80 feet. But there were others that had tire tracks nearby. No footprints. None of them had any footprints, but there were tire tracks by some of them. But the tire tracks were older. The ring was new. The rings were new, but the tire tracks are very old. So this is an exciting find. I think it's great, and I think we're going to see more of them, and they'll get more complex, just like crop circles did back in the 80s. They started out as simple circles and started getting more and more complex until they're now like pictograms. And I don't know if we'll get that here, although the Oregon's free answer would suggest that we are. So this is the latest development in playa circles, and I do thank you for tuning in. I will keep this channel updated whenever I find things like that. If you find anything, please leave a comment and let me know. I will start a blog page, I guess, at some point, because I want my images to be found. My images can't be found on Google search. You have to go to YouTube to even see about them, or Steam it. But if I make a blog page with the photos, then apparently they will be searchable. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you when the next video is made. Take care now.